She snapped. "No car keys until you learn to ask permission." I just said, "Sure." Days later, I'd leased my own car without telling her. The look on her face when she saw it in the driveway was priceless. I, 30, male, had been with Charlotte, 29, for 3 stressful years. We lived in a sleek, minimalist apartment in the South Lake Union neighborhood of Seattle, Washington. I worked as a skilled software engineer for a major cloud provider. Charlotte was a marketing manager for a smaller, high-profile firm. My annual salary was $125,000, which barely covered my share of the rent. Charlotte made $85,000, bringing our combined household income to $210,000. Our lifestyle was based on maintaining an image of success. We paid $3,500 a month for our small apartment. We frequently dined at expensive, acclaimed restaurants and spent every weekend attempting to impress her social circle. Charlotte constantly reminded me that I needed to step up financially. She frequently used the shared car, purchased mostly with her down payment, as leverage against me. The opportunity that would change my life arrived unexpectedly. I was headhunted for a director of engineering role. The company was a smaller, hyper-growth cloud data platform in Boise, Idaho. The compensation was life-altering. The offer included a base salary of $210,000, a significant annual equity package of $50,000, and a $30,000 signing bonus. The total compensation for the first year was $290,000. They also offered a comprehensive relocation package. I presented the offer to Charlotte one Tuesday evening, excited about the stability and the career jump. I showed her the official offer letter detailing the figures. She barely glanced at the paper. "Boys?" she asked, her voice laced with obvious contempt. "That is where people go when they fail in Seattle." "It's a director role, Charlotte," I explained, trying to keep my voice even. "I am jumping from a regular engineer to a leader. My career is here," she announced, placing her hand firmly on the table. "My network is here. I am not moving to the middle of nowhere. It is a $290,000 job in a city with half the cost of living," I insisted, pressing the point. "It is the financial stability we have needed." She stood up abruptly, her face tight with anger. She snatched the keys to the shared car off the kitchen counter. "No car keys until you learn to ask permission," she snapped at me, her eyes flashing. "And until you drop this pathetic Idaho fantasy." I took a deep breath, recognizing the final act of control and betrayal. I simply looked up at her, keeping my expression neutral. "Sure," I said quietly. "As you wish, Charlotte." The update 1. I immediately accepted the director of engineering offer in Boise. My start date was set for 6 weeks away. I began my preparations in complete secrecy. I opened a new private account at a bank that had no relationship with our Seattle institutions. I changed my last 3 paychecks to be deposited into this new, secure account. I transferred all my personal savings. Charlotte maintained her dismissive stance, believing she had successfully shut down the conversation. She refused to discuss the move or the job whenever I brought it up. "I don't want to hear about Idaho, Ethan," she would often say, scrolling through her phone. "It is a non-starter. The offer is exceptional," I would reply, repeating the core truth. "I am moving on." "You are just running away from the hard work here," she stated, echoing her earlier insult. Our mutual friends, who admired Charlotte's expensive lifestyle, quickly backed her up. My friend David, whom I had known for years, called me with skepticism. "Charlotte says you are moving to be a glorified farmhand." David asked, sounding genuinely confused. "Is that true?" "I will be the director of engineering for a major tech platform," I informed him. "Base salary of $210,000. Saddle prestige is better than any salary in Boise," he countered, repeating one of Charlotte's favorite lines. "Don't ruin your career status." I did not argue with his limited perspective. I focused entirely on my silent planning. I researched the best Boise neighborhoods and started looking at mortgage pre-approvals. I quietly leased a small, high-efficiency car in my name only, paying for it entirely from my new private accounts. It was delivered while Charlotte was away at a mandatory work function. Update 2. With my departure only 2 weeks away, and the new car sitting conspicuously in our shared parking space, I knew the final confrontation was unavoidable. I asked Charlotte to meet me at a neutral location, a quiet cafe near the Puget Sound. I carried the finalized separation agreement. She arrived late, immediately noticing the keys to my new car on the table. She eyed them with intense suspicion. "Did you borrow someone's keys?" she asked, her voice sharp with implied accusation. You didn't ask me. No, I replied, sliding the signed legal documents across the table. I leased my own car. I resigned from my job in Seattle. I start the director role in Boys next Tuesday. Her eyes went wide with pure, unadulterated shock. She looked at the papers, then back at me, unable to speak for a moment. You went through with it. She finally managed to hiss, her voice low and dangerous. You abandoned our life for this low-status job. I accepted a director position that you repeatedly mocked. I stated calmly, looking her directly in the eye. You made it clear that you saw my ambition as worthless. I was trying to motivate you, Ethan. She insisted, trying to regain control of the narrative. You needed a push to aim higher here, in Seattle. You did not try to motivate me. I corrected her with surgical precision. You attempted to control me by withholding car keys and insulting my potential. Her face went from shock to pure, unbridled rage. She slammed her hand down on the table. Fine, she declared, her voice shaking with fury. You choose that pathetic Idaho title over me, then. You are finished. I simply leaned forward and signed the final copy of the lease termination for our apartment, which was a separate issue from the separation agreement. I choose the director of engineering role. I confirmed, my voice steady. I choose my self-respect. She stood up instantly, knocked her chair over, and stormed out of the cafe, leaving the signed documents behind. The public scene was embarrassing, but I felt a powerful rush of self-determination. I was finally free of her control. Update 3. The emotional fallout over the next 2 weeks was a relentless cycle of instability from Charlotte. She spent the first week oscillating between explosive anger and self-pity. You are going to hate the snow in the suburbs. One text read, you need the city energy, you will fail. I am excited for the new challenge. I replied to only one text, maintaining my calm, logical distance. She then shifted into desperate bargaining, reaching out through my sister, trying to create an intermediary. Tell Ethan I will move to Boys with him. She told my sister over the phone. I will apply for remote jobs. We can still get married. I have already moved on, Charlotte. I instructed my sister to relay. The relationship is over. When bargaining failed, she entered a period of exaggerated depression, posting dark, vague messages about betrayal on social media. I continued to ignore her entirely, focusing only on my move. I hired movers, terminated utilities, and finalized my new apartment lease in Boys. On moving day, Charlotte was nowhere to be found. She claimed she had an emergency business trip to Los Angeles. I felt nothing but intense relief, watching the movers load my boxes into the truck. The heavy weight of her judgment was finally lifted from my shoulders. My new life in Boys was an immediate, powerful success. The director of engineering job was demanding and incredibly rewarding. I was respected by my team and valued by the executives. My new apartment was spacious, modern and quiet, a welcome change from the cramped Seattle high-rise. Update 4. I spent the next 9 months completely integrating into my new life in Idaho. I focused on work, the gym, and exploring the mountains. I quickly found a vibrant, welcoming community among my tech colleagues and friendly neighbors. I joined a weekend trail running group and a local coding mentorship program. My professional success was exponential. I hired 3 new teams and launched a critical infrastructure project, earning high praise from the CEO. My financial status was radically improved. The $30,000 signing bonus was a solid chunk of cash, and the $50,000 in equity was already vesting. I used my substantial savings and bonus money to buy a beautiful, new single-family house. The property, valued at $590,000, was in a quiet, upscale development near the foothills. I finally had stability and ownership. Around the 8-month mark, the confused messages from the Seattle Circle began arriving. Her brother Chris contacted me unexpectedly. Ethan, I saw you on LinkedIn. Chris wrote, Charlotte told Mom and Dad you had a breakdown and were working as a freelance consultant. I am the director of engineering. Chris, I corrected him with factual precision. I lead 3 teams and own a house here. She told everyone you couldn't handle the Seattle pressure. He confessed, sounding shocked. She made it sound like you were nearly homeless. Charlotte's lies were consistent and vicious. She had created a complete narrative of my failure to justify her abandonment and protect her fragile ego. I ignored most of the mutual friends, but I remained polite and communicative with Chris and her parents. I let the simple facts of my success do the heavy lifting of revealing her lies. Update 5. My company held a major internal event celebrating a successful acquisition, and I was a key speaker. The company's CEO personally mentioned my leadership in a press release. I posted the official announcement and a professional photo of the event on my LinkedIn profile. My full director title, the significant acquisition value, and my leadership role were all publicly detailed. The truth of my high salary, massive title, and undeniable prestige was instantly visible to everyone in my network. Charlotte's reaction was immediate and desperate. My phone and email were overwhelmed with pleading, frantic messages. Charlotte, Ethan, I am so incredibly proud of you. I always knew you were this talented. We need to talk. Charlotte, I made a massive, life-ruining mistake. My life here is empty without you and your stability. Charlotte, I see now that Seattle is toxic and superficial. I will quit my job and move tomorrow. Her abject misery and desperate attempts to reclaim me confirmed my decision completely. Former friends and colleagues who had mocked my move now rushed to apologize. I am so sorry, Ethan. My old manager emailed me. I seriously doubted your choice. Your success is incredible. I just needed a change of environment, I replied professionally. The new role is great. My own family called, their voices full of pride for my career and property ownership. My father said I had finally stood up for myself. Her flood of regret and my family's validation brought a quiet, deep satisfaction. I deleted every single message from Charlotte. Update 6. The digital pleading led to the inevitable in-person attempt a few weeks later. I was leaving the gym one Friday afternoon when I saw Charlotte waiting across the street. She was dressed in an expensive, new outfit, trying to project effortless success. She immediately hurried toward me. Ethan, I flew here this morning, she announced, trying to sound important. I need to apologize in person and ask for a second chance. That was a waste of your time and money, I stated, my tone firm and completely devoid of warmth. We have nothing left to discuss. I've changed, Ethan, she insisted, trying to reach out and touch my arm. I see how much I valued the wrong things. I can be the supportive partner you need. You snapped that I had to ask permission for car keys. I reminded her, crossing my arms over my chest. You called this director role a pathetic Idaho fantasy. I am now a successful homeowner and a respected executive. I was reacting to stress, she insisted, trying to minimize her cruelty. I was insecure about my own career. You were cruel and controlling, I corrected her gently. And you are only here because my income is now over 400,000 and I own property. You have not changed your values. She began to tear up, trying to force a reaction of pity. I love you, Ethan, she whispered, her voice cracking. Please let me move into this beautiful house. I reject your offer firmly, I said, pulling out my phone and calling the non-emergency police line. I have a former partner harassing me on my property. She stared at the phone, realizing the finality of my action. She spun around and ran back toward her rental car, defeated and humiliated. The boundary was set, permanently. Update 7. Charlotte's final acts of revenge quickly escalated to legal and public aggression. I received aggressive, demanding letters from a Seattle attorney. They attempted to claim a partial interest in the shared car, which was now fully mine, and part of the 30,000 signing bonus. They argued the bonus was based on past experience accrued during our relationship. The letters were pure legal harassment. I forwarded all correspondence to my boy's attorney, James, an expert in contract and property law. I had documented every financial transaction and my purchase of the new car. James sent a clear, factual rebuttal. He showed that all assets were separated post-breakup, and the bonus was contingent on fulfilling the new role. He also included evidence of her public insults as proof of her malicious intent. The legal threats stopped immediately. Next, Charlotte launched a short, bitter social media campaign. Using several anonymous profiles, she posted vicious, poorly written accusations. She claimed I was financially abusive and that I had stolen all of our shared resources when I left. Her attempt backfired even more severely than her previous actions. Mutual friends, tired of her endless drama, publicly called her out. They exposed the timeline of her insults and my success. Chris, her brother. Charlotte, this has to stop. He is a director and he owns his house. Stop lying. Acquaintance. She called his career low status. Now she is calling him a thief. This is absurd. The public shaming and the clear evidence of her initial betrayal caused her posts to instantly crumble. The few remaining people who supported her finally turned away. She deleted the burner accounts and vanished from the public eye. Her attempts at revenge had only solidified my position as the wronged party. Update 8. 1 year later, I was living an incredibly stable and successful life. I had been promoted to Senior Director of Engineering. My base salary was 250,000, and my overall annual compensation was well over 450,000. I purchased a second property, a lakeside cabin for weekend retreats, using investment capital. My net worth was now substantial and diversified. I was in a committed, loving relationship with my new partner, Ava, a kind and ambitious product manager. Ava was entirely supportive of my goals and secure in her own success. I received one final, short message from Charlotte via an old, defunct email address. Charlotte, I saw a picture of you and Ava on your boat. You have built everything I ever wanted. I am still here, struggling. I am genuinely sorry for treating you so poorly. I hope you can find peace. It was a final, honest admission of her deep regret and the painful consequences of her materialism. I felt a quiet sense of closure. I knew I needed to maintain the boundary firmly. Thank you for the note, Charlotte, I replied, keeping it short and polite. I wish you the best for your future. I blocked the email address immediately. There was no longer any need for contact. I was fully focused on my new life, leaving the old betrayal behind as a distant, necessary lesson. Final update, 3 months ago, I was back in the Seattle area for a major industry event. I took the opportunity to call Charlotte's parents, Brenda and Stan, whom I always liked. We met at a casual family restaurant. They looked tired and deeply concerned. Ethan, you look like a different man, Brenda said, giving me a sincere hug. The promotion suits you. Boys was exactly what I needed, I confirmed, smiling warmly. Stan looked at me, his eyes heavy with worry and regret. We owe you a major apology, son, Stan began, his voice low and serious. We taught Charlotte to be a terrible partner. We raised her to value power and money over kindness and character. Brenda confessed, her eyes wet with emotion. She could only see your income, not your leadership potential. We regret that deeply. She was very controlling and cruel about my career. I acknowledged gently. She was, Stan agreed, sighing. And now she has nothing but the memory of the great life she mocked and threw away. That is her consequence. I accepted their sincere apology. Their admission of their flawed parenting and values provided the final, quiet closure I needed. The ultimate lesson I learned from Charlotte's betrayal is profound. When someone tries to control you or convince you that you are not capable, they are trying to limit your world to match their own limited view. Do not fight them. Simply accept their judgment as their final word, and then quietly, rationally, execute your escape plan. Build the life they said you could never achieve. Your calm, undeniable success and self-possession will be the only revenge you ever need. I am 32 now, a senior director, and planning a future with Ava. I am happy, financially secure, and finally completely free.